All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live edition of Get Seller Leads, where we sit here and talk about what's going on in the market and actually help agents with real things that they can do in their business today to gain more buyers, sellers, and stay in the trenches. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, Alex?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I know lately you've put yourself back in rotation on talking with a lot of sellers here in Denver for a multitude of reasons, right? Just to kind of see what's going on. How's that been going lately for you, out of curiosity?
Yeah, it's a tough market. It sucks right now. Sellers all think their house is worth a lot more. I
Yeah.
think the sentiment is that housing prices are flat or barely down. And I know that's not the case from firsthand experience in the market. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you why they have actually crashed quite a bit. That it's the data is lying to you because it's being presented incorrectly.
Yeah, that's a tough one out there because we talk with sellers every day, and I know we've struggled with this over the last year or two with our own properties that we own that we're trying to sell, right? With sellers, and it's really hard to explain on paper when like the headlines are, hey, we're up half of a percent, up 1%, and people take their house, right? And they're like, "Oh, my neighbor just sold for 650, right? So therefore I should be up a little bit more than that over the last 12 months." And then you put it on the market and it's a ghost town, right? And you're getting offers at 600 and they're going, "What the hell is going on?" So we've had a really difficult time kind of kind of relaying to sellers like what the real information is because we didn't know what we were actually looking at. So yeah, we're gonna go over some interesting stuff here because I was looking at articles too, just in kind of preparation for this. And man, I've got two conflicting articles on the same day that talk about like Chicago. Chicago's up 7% year over year, and then Chicago's down 4% year over year. And you're like, what? No wonder people are so friggin' confused out there. Uh, and I mean, just to drive this home, like I've been looking at much higher end markets lately with a few buyers from out of state, and looking at a certain stat that Eric found, let me fully understand what is going on in the market. And it's not a number I normally ever even look at because it can be messed with, right, and manipulated. Um, all right, Eric. So what's your take? Let's get the looming question thing out of the way. Are we in another 2008 scenario in your opinion?
We're on the verge of that, depending on what happens next. But we're already in inning two of a 2008 scenario, and it's going to rapidly drop from here if interest rates don't start to come down. And
Yeah.
the data already will show it to you if you know how to look at it. And it's not just Denver; it's a lot of like Denver, Miami, Austin. Uh, I have a list here in a different tab, but I could go over. There's a lot of cities throughout the U.S. that are already falling a lot if you know how to look at the data right. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tricky part. My favorite quote ever is figures can't lie, but liars can figure. And because you can paint whatever picture you want depending on how you look at the stats. So as we're going through this, ladies and gentlemen, if you got questions, if you're watching here live, just drop your question in the comment. We'll get to it here. And again, nothing is off limits, right? We are agents in the trenches doing deals every single day. I mean, that's my deal board behind us. It's getting pretty full for this year. And so we know what's currently working. We know what agents are struggling with. We don't have this like 10,000-foot overview of, oh, this is what you should do in your business. No, we know what agents are struggling with. So don't hesitate in asking us, what's on your mind there, and we'll do our best to help. And if we can't, we can't. So Eric, talk to me. What did you find that is giving you some insight as to what is really going on in our real estate market
I'm going to
right
tell you
now?
in 1 sec, but I want to circle back to the cities that are crashing. All right. So Boise, Idaho, Phoenix, Arizona, Nashville, Tennessee, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, on top of the ones I mentioned earlier, Miami, Austin, Jacksonville, in Denver, of course.
Okay.
But all
Wow.
right, so here's the crux of it.
Yep.
Everyone's looking at the median house price and they're like, oh, the median house price is maybe down 1%, or in some cities up 1%, or
Yep.
maybe it's down 0.3%. Right? It's relatively flat, right? And actually in Denver, it's exactly flat year on
Yeah.
year over year. The median house price is flat from a year ago. So that would tell you, oh, well, the median house price hasn't changed. So therefore, housing prices haven't crashed. Like we're not even close to
Sure.
like an '08 event, is
Sure.
kind of what that looks like, right?
Yep.
But then your experience firsthand as an agent is nothing close to that. Right? Like, no, there's like price drop after price drop, and I can't get a showing. We get no offerings. Like, so what the hell is going on
Yeah.
here? And this is at the crux of the whole thing. The median house price, sure, that has not changed, but the median house has. The average or the median sold house is a different house than it was a year ago.
How so?
That's
Tell
at
me
the
about that.
right. So a year ago, the median house might have been, I'm making up numbers on this actual square footages to illustrate the point. We'll show you the hard data to back this up here in
Okay.
this, so you don't have to take my word for it. But say a year ago, median house was 1,500 square feet. Well, now the median house is the median sold house, not the median house in existence, but the median house that sold in the this last month was a 1,700 square foot. So it's a bigger house. And it makes total sense when you think about it. People that were putting 3% down, getting FHA loan, they're buying lower price properties. And those people can't get qualified anymore to get a loan. The interest rates have kicked them, their debt to income ratio has kicked them out of the market. They're not buying. But the people that are cash buyers, the move up buyers, like that have had their house for 20, 30 years, paid all their principal down, they can go find a house. They're looking for a bigger house. So yeah, they're buying the house at a discount and getting a great deal on it.
Yeah.
And the median price doesn't go down because hardly anything's selling, but the stuff that is selling is higher end at higher prices. So the median sales price hasn't changed, but the median house has changed a lot.
Gotcha. Yep. And this took a while to dig in. I mean, to understand where we were having the disconnect, because we were struggling with it too. And this is not normally a number that we would ever look at. So keep going. What did you find?
Well, here, let's start with Denver because that's my market, and then we'll go to other markets too. But so this is not just Denver. Let's go entire screen.
Okay.
Okay, so this is data from the MLS in Denver. I'm looking at the median closed price in August. The data just got released today. It was the same in July, no change, but it's $570,000, which is 0% year over year. If I go back to August 2024, right here, 570. So
Yep.
no change. That's the headline number. That's what everyone's talking about. That's not the real number. If yeah, it's a real number, it's just not a significant number because the median house isn't the same house. So if we look at the price per square foot, same time period, you can see it peaked in April 2024 and it has been going down ever since, which
Yep.
matches my actual experience so much closer. Right? We're down 3.7% in Denver. And
Compared to what was it back in 2023? Keep going, that peak right there.
oh,
So
here
390.
390 2022 December. So January 1st here, 2023, 394, $394 a square foot.
Okay. And we're at what today?
363.
Okay. So that's a solid 10%. Right off.
Solid 10% down. Yeah. That no
So
one's
if you
talking
had
about.
a house that was 1,500 square feet and you were getting close to $400 a square foot, you're now getting 360 something a square foot. Okay.
Yes. Here, this is going to make it look even more. So let's look at just properties that are $325,000 or less, down 12.5% year over year.
Ooh,
from 325 down to 265. So that's 25 plus 45, $70 a square foot on
yeah,
325. That's
significant.
yeah. Let's see the percentage. Let's get a
If
calculator.
if those were build costs, right? You would be freaking out as a
21%
contractor.
down.
How much down?
21%, 21.5% down.
Wow. And so, okay, so this price range that we're looking at, again, to hit home, why is this? Now, this is first time home buyer price range in Denver here, right? Probably a lot of condos as well. I don't think you're differentiating there.
No,
I'd be interested to see what condos are doing, but why is this price range getting hit so much harder?
the condos about the same, 12.1 versus
Okay.
12.5. So condos are on average are doing better than average in this price range. So
Okay.
this price range is getting hammered the most because if if you're looking for an entry level like apartment type, I guess a condo, a small condo or townhouse, some entry level kind of property, you're probably more likely to barely qualify for the loan from your debt to income ratio because you're probably working at a low paying job, and when interest rates go up your debt to income ratio gets, will wipe you out of the market.
Yeah. And then what is it? What's the stat? Like for every 1% that interest rates go up, it kicks out like 10% of the buyer pool at that price range, something like that,
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah.
So if we're up 4 points from the lows in 2022, 2021, I mean that bottom, that first time home buyer, you're down half of your market, right? Half of your buyer
Yeah.
pool is just toast.
Here, let's look at a couple other cities around Denver. So this isn't just limited to just Denver, right? So if we look at Boulder, it's down 2.6%. But if you look at this chart, pretty flat,
Yeah.
right? 2.6% year over year. If you look at median close price,
Yep.
wrong data point to look at, right? If we look at price per square foot, it's down 5.1%. So
Yep. That's year over year.
double the difference year over year. And if we go just to look at a few more, Aurora down 3.2% year over year. Um, I like this one, Highlands Ranch. Highlands
Ooh.
Ranch, if you looked at median close price, it's up 0.7%. But if you look at
Yep.
price per square foot, it's down 0.7%.
Yep. So the bigger stuff is selling, the bigger the house is, the more expensive it is, the more likely it is that someone's paying cash, they have the ways and means, and the cheaper stuff is
Mm,
sitting, going expired. And so therefore it's driving up the median price, but yet the price per square foot is actually correcting for that.
yeah, in Centennial, we go from up 0.5% to down 1.1. And to drive home what you just said, let's go back to Denver. If we look at houses over 735,000, and you look at the median price, it's up 0.3% for more expensive properties. Everything over 735, but
Yep.
it's even that more expensive properties are actually down. It's down
Yeah.
1.4% price per
Interesting.
square foot. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. All right. So keep going. What else? What else have you found here?
All right, so let's look at some other markets. So to shorten my research time, I asked ChatGPT because I don't have MLS access to other markets. Austin, Texas is down 0.3% is what you'd think if you looked at median house prices.
All right. I'm checking Redfin data center here too. Well, real time just to see like, all right, what is going on in these other areas. So
Redfin
yeah,
shows, according to
up
Gemini,
2% is what Redfin is showing on my now that's the metro area, right? So who knows what they actually include in those numbers.
up 2.8%, probably.
Yep.
Yep. See, that's what Gemini says, which makes sense because they said Redfin shows up 2.8 in Austin, Texas. If you look at the price per square foot, it's down 2.6%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Austin, God, Austin was crazy back in
Realtor.com shows 14.1% drop in median listing price from Central Austin.
Central Austin, which tracks to Denver, right? If we do
Yes.
Denver Metro, Centennial is up year over year, and Highlands Ranch might be up, and Parker might be up, right? Westminster, Thornton, Northglenn, they might be up. But then when you start narrowing it down to like Denver proper, we start seeing the bloodbath, right?
Right. Yeah. If we look at Miami, you'd think it was down, median price down to 8.4, but it's actually down 9.91 price per square foot.
Jeez. Florida just gets hammered, don't they?
They are right now because it's kind of exacerbated there because of some laws around HOAs and some. What's going on in Florida is if you have a condo, the HOA has to hire a third party to do a structural inspection on it every, I think, 3 years, something like that. And then
Oh,
whatever they find, the HOA has to fix, even if there's no money there. And so then they have special assessments to pay for them, but the residents don't have the money, and the HOAs go, bankrupt, and then it's an unwarrantable condo, which exacerbates the problem because no one can get government-backed loans for them. So that's what's going on in Miami.
geez. And then you got hurricanes, right?
Yeah. Well,
That's
which
just,
exacerbate what I just said too, right? Because I can't share my screen and do that. Yeah, if you have a hurricane, it makes structural problems, and then the state law makes the HOA fix them, even if they
yep,
can't afford it.
yep. Okay. Whew.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we at? So what do you see as the most dangerous cities in the country right now? Like where would you avoid being a buyer at? Or is this the time to take advantage of buying a house?
I, I would I would not be a buyer in Denver, and I would not be a buyer in San Francisco. I wouldn't be a buyer in the Seattle, Austin, Texas, um, not Miami for sure. I would sit tight. I think that'll be this. I guess I'll start to talk about it now. I think what's coming up here in September in the next Fed meeting, which is I want to say September 18th. It's within a couple days of there,
Yeah.
is going to be very telling. Uh, right now, there's a lot of talk out there that the Fed's going to drop rates, and because for political reasons too. And if that happens, despite the fact that we still have an PCE number just came out on Friday, I want to say at
Yeah.
2.6%. If the Fed's going to throw in the towel on the inflation fight because the jobs market and the jobs and economy is lacking, then that's going to bring they're going to force prices down, and they're going to force interest rates down, which will make housing prices go up, which would make today a great time to buy. But it's too much of a risk, in my opinion.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Um, yeah, with that, I mean, I think there was just news this morning too on inflation going up. It was like a 7 month high or something like that. Stock market's having a little bit of a reaction today. And so now there's rumors on like, oh, any cheerleaders on rate drops is gonna go away here. Um, and so it's real interesting. And with Trump getting rid of that Fed chair, I forget what her name is, Cook or something like that. Trying to take control of the Fed. Like there's so many different things at play here. And so is this just uncertainty, right? Or is there something behind the scenes? So back in 2008, right, it was a financial crisis, right? We had mortgage backed securities that were just a problem and it was a shit show and being bought and sold dozens of times over. And it was just a huge house of cards. So do you see any other catalyst on the horizon that could tip us in that direction? Or do you think this is purely a supply and demand and the supply is just going to keep getting heavier and heavier as interest rates maybe don't drop, right? Or even increase, which is not a narrative that we've been talking about at all. If rates went to 9%, right, on mortgage rates, like, oh God, what would that do then? Um, with all the tariffs happening and if
Here, Josh,
inflation does
Josh
skyrocket.
just commented. Not to. I'll come back
Yeah.
to what you just said, but Josh just to kind of back up what I was just saying. Josh is in St. Petersburg, Florida, so he's very aware of what I was just talking about with the condo problem with the
Yep.
HOAs and stuff. $7 million worth of structural fixes in his condo
Oh, that's
alone.
what that meant.
Yes, and in the whole complex. See, 150 million. I don't know if that's just Bayfront Towers he's talking about. Is 150 million, but in any case, he's confirming what I just said.
Holy cow. Okay,
So
so
back to what you were just talking about. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think there's one of two things that happen, and that's why it's so hard to tell whether you should buy or sell right now. If you're a buyer, whether you should buy or wait. It's because either the party is about to take off again because they're going to juice the market with low interest, like easy money for housing, which could
Yep.
be done through quantitative easing. And if the Fed uses quantitative easing to buy mortgage-backed securities, they screw up the supply-demand curve on mortgage-backed securities. They can do the same thing with Treasury. The 10-year, they can manipulate the long end of the curve too with QE.
Yeah.
And so if they do that, then that's going to bring interest rates down. And then we're going to see the party continue on real estate like it has been over the last decade. We'll just keep going. But
Yeah.
if they don't, then we're about to crash. Like, are we popping the bubble or are we going to inflate it more? Like that's the question. And it's all up to the Fed.
Yeah.
Which might
So
be controlled by Trump now, which
what
get into
is your
that.
indicator for the last decade plus? I've always looked at foreclosures as my leading indicator of what is going to happen over the next 6 months in the Denver market, right? We advertise to people in foreclosure, people in distressed situations, right? That's how we get the majority of our sellers. A lot of them do happen to be in foreclosure. And but I haven't seen a tick up. I'll check here in a second to see if there's been any change in the last, year or so. But outside of that, like, do you have any indicator that you would look at to go like, okay, we're on the precipice. Is it still foreclosures or is that just not a thing? 'Cause I mean, there's no short sales out there, right? Like there's not enough people. We've appreciated by 25 to 30% in the entire country over the last couple of years still. So unless you bought a property that is a newer build, right? Those are in trouble across the board. What are you looking at to know like, hey, this is getting out of control? Is it purely supply and demand in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that you look at foreclosures. I think that's a big piece, which are up, not anything like 2008, but
Yeah.
they are climbing up. And this I thought I've heard different economists talk about this on podcasts that they're so surprised that it's second mortgages, that it's mortgages tied to prime instead of but it makes total sense to me because the average consumer stretched and they got a home equity line of credit on their
Yeah.
house. And so even people that have had their house for, that have, say you have a first mortgage with a 2.5% interest rate because you hit it great, right?
Yeah.
Well, if that's for say on a $250,000 loan because you've owned your house for a long time, and now your house is worth say 600,000, and you have another $250,000 loan behind it at 8% interest because it's prime plus whatever, prime plus 4, say,
Yeah.
yeah, you're still going to lose your house
Yeah.
if you can't make those payments. It doesn't
Yep.
doesn't matter. You got the cheap loan underneath. I think there's a lot of people in that situation, and that's what'll tip this. But everyone's holding on because there's hope that no one knows which way it's going to go. So
Yeah. So I just pulled up in the last 3 months from June 1st to basically yesterday, uh, the amount of foreclosures recorded in the entire Denver metro area. Now I've been tracking this long enough to know that 50 is on the average side. That's what it's been for the last 10 years. Every week there's been about 50 recorded foreclosures in a city of basically 4 million people. Okay. Right now we're basically at 86 a week. So we haven't doubled, but that's still up more than 50%. Right now, back in 2008, I want to say that number was was it 400 a week, something like that, 4 to 500 a week in the Denver metro area at that time. So still far off from there, but still up 50 plus 65% from this time last year. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and I know a lot of our leads, I would say, in the last year or so, I can't tell you how many people, how many leads we've had come in that are on the MLS that bought 2 to 3 years ago, bought at the peak, right? And now they're looking to sell and they don't have a snowball's chance in hell on
Yeah.
selling this property. We just went and looked at a Richmond home for $1 million that was listed last year at 1.25, and they were offering a 4.5% permanent rate lock at $1 million. So they were down 250,000 from what they were trying to sell last year. And they're offering, who knows, another 75 grand in seller incentive just to get this thing sold in a 4.5% interest rate. Like, and if you've got a new property a mile down the road that was built 2 or 3 years ago that you bought, like around $1 million, you don't stand a chance in getting that offer over the brand new property. You just don't. And so we have this segment of sellers here that are in a whole world of hurt, and especially if they bought into a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down a couple years ago, and now all of a sudden their monthly payment is $500, $600, $700 more than it was when they originally bought. Like, that's going to be a problem for a lot of people here, and the timer is starting now. Um,
Yeah.
Interesting. All right,
Well,
during your research, go on. Yeah,
I think we're right on the edge of seeing a lot more people throw in the towel, and I think we're going to get some motivated sellers back. And we don't have a lot of them now. There's very few people that actually have to sell. There's a lot
yeah,
of people that want to sell, but they don't have to, and they're holding on. But I think that the tides are going to change on that soon, which will make it much easier to be a real estate agent.
yeah,
But I want to show you something, which I think this is a chart I follow closely. It's the Fred 30-year fixed rate mortgage
yeah,
chart, so the average mortgage rate in the US. And this is just from the start of this year to now. And you'll see here just in August, we came from 672 down to 656. There's the potential this goes down in the fives because the Fed
yeah,
forces it. And
yeah,
if you see that, like if this just keeps coming down, that's a clear indicator that here, let me get back. That's a clear indicator that we're probably going the way of inflation and inflating the housing market again, and it's definitely safe to buy. And so if I were a buyer, I'd be watching that close. And if you see interest rates get real close to 5, or you're pretty confident they're going to get into the fives, you're 5.9, I would buy, like, because that
yeah.
means we're taking off.
Yep. And if you missed last week's episode, Eric had a firsthand experience of UWM, United Wholesale Mortgage, that reached out to him about properties he had just finished building, that he had just gotten the certificate of occupancy and refied into a 30-year mortgage. And they reached out to have you do a refi on because UWM is buying the loans in an expectation of potentially lower interest rates.
Yeah, they're giving you basically a point 0.9, but basically a basis point of free money to buy a rate down with. They're just trying
Yeah.
to package up a bunch of loans to front run the Fed meeting in September. And
Yep.
UWM is the biggest lender in the US. So if
Yeah.
they're doing that, I feel like, there are some people that know more than other people. And
Yeah.
it's
Always.
likely that they're in that camp. They're front running what's going to happen in September, in my opinion. I mean, I can't guarantee that. I'm not one of those people that know more than others. I'm listening and looking at what I'm seeing and making,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
making assumptions based on common sense.
Yep. Totally. So, with this, during your research, did you find commonality among cities that are struggling more than others? Right. If you had to put them in a bucket, like I hear Austin, Seattle, San Francisco, Denver, uh, Florida, right? I
If
don't
you
hear
take,
much about Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland,
they're
right?
all blue major cities in they're they're Democrat leaning cities, with the exception of Florida. And the Florida cities are in a unique situation, I think, because of the HOA rules and the hurricanes. So I think
Yeah.
they're moving for a different reason than the other big cities.
Yep. Gotcha. So now there's deals happening every day, right? That's what I always get the nastiest comments on my social media stuff on like, well, so with house prices crashing, like good luck being a real estate agent. Like there's always transactions every single day, right? There's 4,000 homes sold a month in the Denver metro area. There's 40,000 plus agents. You're either a part of the deal or you're not, right? That's just how it is. Maybe it's getting, a little bit more struggling to get to the finish line. Everything's a little bit grittier. But what would your advice be for agents, whether they're working with motivated sellers, right? Sellers in general, whether that's using, the system that we have to, help generate the seller leads, or they're just cold calling, straight through Red X or anything like that. What would your advice be for agents right now on how to capitalize on what's going on? Because there's always an opportunity in every weird market out there, right? Have you seen any opportunity here to really capitalize on things, or are we just in like this prepare and get ready? Because once it's good, it'll be great.
Yeah, it's scrape together anything you can mode right now. Be like, and I'm this. Here's a visual to give you the to give you the full picture. This These are closed listings, so 16,000, basically 17,000, 16,960 in January 2022. Today, 10,000. So, you know, 6,000 listings gone. 10 now there's still 10,000. So
Yeah,
there's no reason you still can't survive, but you're having to work that much harder. There 6,000 are gone. That's,
yeah,
maybe 35% or so of the closings are out the window. So that means about 35% of the agents, if everyone was doing equal volume, which they're not,
yeah,
35% of the agents would be gone. But in reality, it's probably more like 80% of the agents are gone. And the
yeah,
ones that are left, like you've got to bring more value to the table. So
yep,
I think this is a great time to, if you only worked with sellers, maybe work with buyers too. Try to get whatever you can together to make money to survive until those rates come down. Unless they're
yep,
not going to come down, in which case this is going to be a real tough. It could be a long decade for agents, right? I think
yeah,
the people that tell you, "Oh, you're an agent and they're starving," could be a lot more right than they were a month ago if we don't see those rates come down.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm totally with you, and I think I've been blessed enough this year to have been building up my business over the last good number of years to start to get a lot more referrals and things like that in my business. But on the transaction side, I've never had so many agents that only communicate after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was really bizarre, right? I was just like, what the hell's going on? Why are all these listing agents all of a sudden? I'm primarily listing, right? I'm like 70, 80% on the listing side. I only take on a few buyers a year. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like I'll get communications at 7:30 in the morning, and then I don't get anything till after 4. Man, it took me about 2 or 3 months to realize that after about the second or third agent. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. They've got a full-time job, don't they? Damn it. That's and nothing against them. Like, you got to do what you got to do to feed your family. I'll be the first to say that. Like, good on you for going out and getting a reliable source of income because these days, 25, 30% of all deals are falling apart while they're
Mhm.
under contract. And you don't know if that buyer's going to disappear on you, right? Or if the seller's going to be like, screw it, I'm done. We're going expired. Like, take me off the market. I can't do this anymore. And that happens. I've had more of that happen in the last year and a half than I have my entire business combined, right? I've only had prior to 2023, I only had one listing ever go expire, period, out of the hundreds that I've sold. In this last year and a half, 2 years, I think I've had 6, 7, 8 deals between going expired or buyers under contract that then all of a sudden disappear and they're no longer wanting to buy a house or something. Like we've had a lot of funky stuff go on the last couple of years. So hold
Yeah.
on. I do think there is a silver lining. Like I was just talking to a lender a couple of weeks ago who saved a transaction. We're down 90% of all mortgage brokers and lenders in the country, right? We went from about 650,000 down to about 50,000. The thing is that you have to renew your lender license every single year. Us agents have a 3-year window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we should get some updated numbers here in the next few months. And he threw out an interesting stat that said only 6% of real estate agents in Colorado had closed a single deal in 2025. And that was last month. Which
Yeah.
is crazy.
I want to point out another thing back when we were looking at percentage drops that wasn't in there.
Yeah.
So on top of the fact you got the median house price kind of irrelevant, right? And you got to look at dollars price per square foot. The price per square foot still doesn't tell you the whole story, because if you're in a market where you can barely get approved for your loan because their high interest rates are making your debt to income ratio bump up against that ceiling. The way you get the loan, like get the house, is with a seller concession from the seller. Like instead of offering 500,000 for a house, you're going to offer 510 with, or 520 with $20,000 seller concession, because that $20,000 is going to buy the rate down and help you get your debt to income ratio back in line. The extra 20K in the loan, your payment's going to be net down from buying the rate down. And so those rate buy downs, the seller concessions are way higher than they used to be, and they're not showing up in those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I've on all the listings shit. I think the last one I closed had 30 grand in seller concession. Right.
Yeah.
That's the largest one I've ever had in my life. Now it's not uncommon for a new build to have that sort of seller concession to buy down the rate, but that's kind of baked in and you have to use their in-house lenders. So I don't even know if that might not even show up on the MLS, to be honest with you.
Probably
But
doesn't.
it probably doesn't, right? But when you have a
Right.
resold house, it has to show up on the MLS there. And yeah, like I didn't even know you could have a seller concession in that size, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
because it's got to cap out at your loan closing costs.
Right.
So I was just really surprised. Like that's just what we had to do to put the deal together. Sweet. Okay. So anything else on this topic? We got one question in from one of our users through the email this morning, but anything else on this? So yeah.
I've got one other thing to add to this topic before we move on. Okay. So what we're seeing with, if you're paying attention to precious metals market, which I think ties back into this pretty good, silver, particularly silver and gold, but definitely silver, had a huge breakout last like Thursday, Friday, and then it went over $40 an ounce this weekend, and there's no resistance if you look at technical charts up till we get to 50, and we're up at 41 something right now. So silver's taking off and gold's going up too. And then I'm thinking that Fred chart we just looked at, which shows you the mortgage rates, it publishes every Thursday. I think this upcoming Thursday, we're going to see mortgage rates down more. And all this is in anticipation for what's going to happen in that September Fed meeting, the same one that UWM's trying to front run. You know, these are all signs that all kind of point back at the same outcome. And what the headlines are saying, which may or may not be true, I think probably is fairly true, is that Trump has found ways to replace enough seats in the Fed, because there's Fed chairmen and there's Fed governors. It's really complex how that works. I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but I'm sure if you're paying attention to the news at all, you probably heard about this Fed chairman who just happened to resign early and got replaced. And then another one who's getting investigated for mortgage fraud because they said that their they had a vacation property that they said was their primary residence to get a better rate on, which is pretty common. Like it's not that big a deal, right? But they're using it as like, oh, that's fraud. We got to remove them, right?
Yeah.
So that's a key thing. If you replace enough Fed governors, Now, those governors, if they're all in Trump's pocket and Trump wants lower rates, they can replace a bunch of Fed chair members too. And the way all that voting and stuff works, it's a possibility that the president just took over control of the Fed, at least temporarily, and can start QE to juice
Yeah.
things. And because of that, we're watching precious metals go up. We're watching the dollar weaken. We're watching probably mortgage interest rates go down, which is going to help us because volume is going to go way up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if they figure out how to kick the can down the road for another 10, 15, 20 years, I mean, we have more tools at our disposal now for them to manipulate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they can change whatever they want. I mean, they went from tracking inflation from a 2-year basket of goods to a 1 year in 2022. Like, that was
Yeah.
the best year they could have freaking changed the rules, and no one even talks about it. And you're like, wait a minute, you just got rid of like 50% of our inflation by changing how you did the math,
Right.
and no one cares?
No
Like,
one cares.
all
Yeah.
of a sudden we're magically at 2%, and then, well, we were at 3.5% that year, and you're like, yeah, no shit. We should be at like 6.5%, but you changed how you did the math.
They
So
wanted to bury that year where we had 9% plus inflation.
yes.
So they just erased it.
So that's what they did. And then they told
Yeah.
everybody about it, and no one cared.
Nope.
You're like, what the hell is going on here? Dumbest thing I probably ever did was learn about our financial system. It's
Yeah.
probably prevented me from making more money than anything else, is figuring out how this house of cards is actually stacked.
Yeah.
Um,
The takeaway is not to try to go down this rabbit hole and learn all this shit. The takeaway is if you're an agent and you're on the edge, hold on. There's a lot of hope that interest rates are going to come down and
yeah,
volume's going to pick up.
yeah,
And if you want us to give you some really badass Facebook ads that work really well, then there's probably a link behind this video, underneath this video. We'll do it's really low cost and you get great Facebook ads that bring in seller leads.
yep. Yeah, and that's what we do. If you're watching this and you haven't seen us before, like, we've been just generating motivated seller leads for the last 10 years. We do it through Facebook. Google has kind of taken a back seat, honestly, even though that used to be the strongest way. But that's how we do this. And this kind of ties into this question where one of our newer users is starting to get leads in. And they asked, I started to get leads in. I've got 8 so far. Again, how many consistently does it take to start closing deals? So I wanted to run
Just
over
for some
this.
context, do you know, is there a name?
No, there's no name.
Okay.
Nope.
So it takes about 22 deals or leads to close a deal. So if you've got 8 in so far, statistically speaking, you probably have to bring in uh, what's that? Another 12 to
Yep.
another 14 leads to get a deal.
Yep. Statistically, right? And it could
Mhm.
be 30, right in your first go, and then the
It
next
could be
one
your
could come.
first one. It could be your 30th one. But
Yeah, 100%. But this, just to give you an idea, this is what I track every single month. And I know some of you are going to be laughing at me right now on how many calls that I make, because you guys are freaking grinding it out and I look like I'm slacking off in comparison. Uh, but this year I've made 800 phone calls, right? I've connected with 449 people out of 267 new leads. I have not updated August numbers yet on how many new leads I've gotten in. And I set 40 meetings, attended 35, and I have 17 contracts signed. So I'm signing 1 out of every 2 meetings. Now, this year, I will say I've had some referrals to come in, so that's been good. But yeah, and 13 deals closed. So to go to how many leads per contract signed, if we divide 267 by 17, so that's about 16 leads this year per deal for me. But again, like I said, I've had some other deals that have come in that are not directly associated with our motivated seller leads. So in the past, like last year, my number, which was purely just motivated seller leads, it was 389 leads to 23 contracts signed. So again, that's about 17 last year. But I know on average we're running about 23. Or am I doing that math wrong? 23 divided by 389. Nope. Yeah, that's right. So it's about 23 leads per contract signed on average, is what we've tracked from purely the motivated seller leads through Facebook, Google, all that good stuff. So there's your answer. Keep going. Don't stop. Everybody stops right before it starts to break free. Um, and keep going. Like, for example, on my personal marketing that I've done, uh, I would spend about 3 times what I wanted the cost of acquisition to be, right? So if I was expecting to spend $1,200 per deal, I was solidly spending $3,600 before I knew if I was going to throw in the towel, right? Or massively change things up. Because even then, at $3,600, if I'm making 14 grand on a commission, like, okay, that still actually works and I can still scale that. But spend more than you think, because it takes 30, 60, 90 days to really get that ball rolling. And you'll have deals that take 90 days to close, right? To sign somebody on following up with them. So keep going. But if you got any questions, feel free, of course, reach out, let us know. We'll be happy to help in any way we can. Anything else, Eric, you got?
No, we covered it all.
Yeah. Hold on to your asses, folks. It's funky out there. It's a weird market, but hopefully on the horizon, there's some good stuff. And once it takes off, man, it's going to be faster than you think. And the people who are on the sidelines, it's going to take them 6, 9, 12 months to rebuild their business again. So just keep staying in touch with people. The pins will keep knocking down. Survive for now, and there's greener pastures to come.
Most likely.
Awesome. All right, guys. Until next week, go. Good luck out there and stay strong.